All right, welcome to the new Pangburn Philosophy Studio. Those flickering lights behind me are the guidance systems for the Pangburn Inspire spaceship. We just based the concept of this studio on a spaceship, and I don't know why. It's something I picked out of my brain or thought of late at night. But the other voice you're hearing laughing is Armin Navabi.
Hello.
We are, this is the first test for the ship today, and we thought we would start with the most high-profile event we've ever done, and this would be the Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson first night ever coming together. So
in Vancouver.
And this was June 23rd, 2018 of this year. This was the first of a four-part series between Sam and Jordan. And these first two meetings were moderated by Brett Weinstein, who you'll see did a fantastic job. It's not easy being a moderator, and especially when you know you're coming to moderate an event where two speakers have had some trouble even agreeing on some fundamental descriptions or definitions of certain terms, and that must have been worrisome for Brett coming into this.
Yeah, but I think it was a great idea having Brett there, because the conversation kept moving along. Like, he kept on pushing them to get out of the finish. There was actually a lot of struggle between the speakers and friendly, like kind of the battle between the moderators and between the moderator and the speakers. There was a point that Brett kept on trying to push them to move forward, and they both refused. They both wanted to keep seeing if they could see what they're talking about, clarify what they're talking about. But it was great. It was a great thing, because a lot of people that were I interviewed a whole bunch of people after the event. And a lot of people that were disappointed about their previous discussions were very happy with this one. So I think having Brett there did make a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely. And I got to spend a lot of time with Brett at the Day of Reckoning conference that we just got back from in Australia. And there's nothing better for a geek like me that really loves nature and biology to walk through some parks with Brett Weinstein and have him describe everything. I'm talking everything from plant life to wildlife that you're seeing, and having stories and different things to tell you about those things. It was a lot of fun. So, huge fan of Brett's. Everyone should follow what he's doing, because he's doing some amazing things. And one thing to look forward to with Brett, in October, he's going to be having an event with Richard Dawkins, and they'll be talking evolution, which is going to be groundbreaking in a few different ways, I believe. So keep an eye on that event, and if you can get down for that event, please come. I think it's going to be well worth it, and that'll be in Chicago at the Chicago Theater. And you can see our spaceship is attempting to find power. We've crash landed here, and anyone who donates to our cause on Patreon or anything goes directly to fixing things like that. We appreciate everyone's support coming to the events and supporting us on Patreon or through the website. It's this whole adventure is impossible without all of your support, so thank you. Should we get on with the video?
Yeah, let's play.
Let's have a look. Here comes.
Please put your hands
Hulk
together
Hogan.
for Brett Weinstein, Jordan Peterson, and Sam Harris.
So people often, just pause for a sec, people often ask me, like, why do I introduce these things like they're these like boxing matches or fights or WWE wrestling matches? I don't know, because it's fun. I have fun doing it. Like, sue me. I don't know. I think it's fun to set these events up like they're their battles and wars, kind of like the kind of wars that you would play when you were young in the playground. And these are wars of ideas. These aren't literal wars. And I know people can get triggered by, relating them to a war, but really what we're talking about is a war of ideas. But be sure that sometimes a war of ideas can spill out into becoming a straight up, war of destruction and bombs, missiles.
Well,
guns.
once it stops being a war of ideas, then it starts becoming a war of fists and bullets.
Yeah.
But it's better to keep the war of ideas to remain a war of ideas.
Yes.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to have fun while you're in this war of ideas, because I think that keeps people sane.
Right. Another way to say it is like when we stop having conversations, that's when we fight. Oh, what is this? You need to connect the battery.
Battery is running low.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording. All right. So should we hit play?
Yeah. You don't have to stop it. I'll just say that this was one of the loudest roars from a crowd I've ever heard outside of music.
Yeah, until we went to Dublin.
Oh, yes. There's 3,000 people in that audience.
I guess we're in Vancouver.
There were some audio issues
All right.
early on with
That is daunting.
at the venue, but they cleared it up pretty quickly.
So I hope you'll indulge
venue
me
screwed it
here
up.
for a second. Jordan and Sam have given me the honor of moderating this debate or discussion, depending on how you view it, and I think that actually
Look at that
creates
beautiful head of hair.
a certain kind of responsibility. And I want
I have
to
some
talk to you
disagreements
about my
with Brett as well. I
responsibility
don't
and
know
how
if
I
you want to
see
get
it,
into that.
and my sense of how you all have responsibility in this as well.
Go on.
I suspect that what's going to happen tonight is actually historical, which doesn't necessarily.
You can see even
make
right
it
now
good.
that
There's lots of
like
bad
okay, I'm gonna pause
history.
it. You can see as we go forward, you can see his main goal is to find common ground, right? And I don't think that should be the objective. I think you don't
Because someone's bullshitting up there.
Yeah, I mean, the goal should be finding the truth, not common ground, I think. The objective is, I don't want to give in. I don't want to, like, try to, like, okay, fine, just so that I could hold hands and sing Kumbaya and make friends with each other. Just agree on something just for the sake of...
You sound like Kevin O'Leary from Dragon's Den. Have you seen that show? He's the bald guy.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, the whole point of this... Well, let's see.
It could be good, though, and that's what I'm hoping will happen. So the reason I say I think it's historical is that we are existing in a moment where all of the systems that have helped us make sense are breaking down. The university systems are breaking down. Journalism is breaking down.
Do you think that's an exaggeration? That the whole thing is breaking down?
And at that same moment, we have a network of people who
I think what he's referring to is that there's a lot of distrust.
Yeah, there's a lot of distrust, but is it the whole thing breaking down in universities and everything?
No, I mean, there's so many resources at that level that once people start seeing, the higher ups start seeing that, okay, we have a populace that can think and want to think.
Right.
They're going to have to adapt some things.
Right.
I think Brett's speaking from the heart here.
Right.
He's got the shit end of the stick when it comes to the educational institution that he worked for.
I mean, there are problems. I don't know if it's breaking. If it is breaking down, it's not because of that. It's because they're going to find much cheaper alternative to education than university.
Sure.
Yep.
A lot more online.
Yeah, online stuff. Yeah. Online courses.
It's in an alternative way, and I have to say I think beating the odds for the moment. So here's the problem. That network is not entirely in agreement with itself about some significant issues, and Sam and Jordan have some differences that have proved very difficult. So what could happen tonight is we could have some sort of a failure where things get even more muddled. We could tread water where nothing gets clearer. Maybe it would be entertaining, maybe it wouldn't. But best case scenario is that we figure out how to make sense of things that have gotten in our way before. And if that happens, then you all will leave here, and as you talk in your various networks, you will have something to say about in what way we upgraded our software so that we could talk more deeply about difficult issues. So,
so I agree that being able to talk about difficult issues without becoming trigger happy, I think is an important thing.
Right.
But you know, I don't think Brett's saying this. We can't excuse or make concessions, unnecessary concessions for bullshit.
Well, he's not saying that here.
Yeah.
No, he's not saying that here. But I mean, I really do think that only one of the speakers is guilty of making things unclear here, and one of them is mostly being very clear. But we could disagree on that while going for But because his entire point is that to be more clear, have a better understanding. And I really do think one of the speakers, and I think you know which one, is constantly working against that. But we'll see. I know you disagree with that.
You not film tonight's discussion and broadcast it online. It's not that we want to hide this. In fact, we encourage you to discuss it. But we would like to have all of us feel maximally free to speak here, to try out positions that we haven't tried out before in the hopes that we can get somewhere new.
So let me address this. It's like, I don't think it was important to any of these speakers that Brett say this. Okay, it's like...
Oh, wait, you didn't put him up to this?
No.
Oh, okay.
And screening, doing this thing to say, don't film us because we want to like try new things. It's like, if you're speaking live and you're taking risks live anyway by speaking live about subjects, and it's like it's kind of this adds this notion of, oh, I don't want to be caught on film saying something in case I'm saying something I don't necessarily mean.
Wait, you think that's what he's saying?
Well, what reason would you say, like, I'm fine with saying don't film the event because you're not allowed to film this event because it's being professionally filmed and it's going to be
I thought he's saying don't film the event because we want to make sure this model works financially. Isn't that what he's saying?
No, I don't think so. Let's go back. Oh. Let's listen to it.
How do you go? Okay.
Might be able to go back a bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, let's go there.
And as you talk in your various networks, you will have something to say about in what way we upgraded our software so that we could talk more deeply about difficult issues. So, to that end, we would ask that you not film tonight's discussion and broadcast it online. It's not that we want to hide this. In fact, we encourage you to discuss it. But we would like to have all of us feel maximally free to speak here, to try out positions that we haven't tried out before in the hopes that we can get somewhere new.
This security blanket, I don't like what's being said.
No, I
here.
thought he was. Oh, I thought, oh, that's so nice. He cares about making this a financially
viable. He was there, and then all of a sudden the next part.
Yeah, but then he said because we want to try out new things, so that he wants to just. That's not. Yeah, that's not. The whole point of having these things live in front of an audience is to make making it like raw and like. I mean, at some point these would have gotten out. Right.
Yeah, the events
as they filmed. Are. So I don't understand what he's saying there. Huh.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it was clear to Brett that we were filming the event. He was involved in all those discussions.
Right.
So, maybe. And I don't think he meant it in a way so that just to add something a little more so that he would convince people not to film.
Right.
I think he's getting at something where. I don't know, maybe he believes one of the speakers wouldn't be open to going down certain paths if they knew that they were being filmed, but I don't think that's true. Right.
But then later on he changed his mind because it took for him, he decided that it's taking too long for the videos to get released, which we already explained how complicated that was, right? But then at that point, then he came out with the video saying that he wished that somebody did record it, which is not very nice, I think. I don't know. Isn't that... I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I think there's just there's lots going on. It was a very big, very impactful event.
Yeah.
And I think people's reasoning became tangled and people were acting quicker than they were thinking.
Well, no, I mean, people don't have all the information. They don't know what's happening in the background. They don't know why we can't release.
You know,
they just decide that it's easy. So why don't you just do it?
Well, and then, you know, from a speaker's perspective that has a significant fan base, if all of your fans are writing you saying, you told us not to record it, and now it's not coming out right away.
Right.
And then, you know, and maybe Brett believed that I think he said that he thought that we would lose momentum with this by...
Yeah, but then we had event after event after event.
Yeah. I just don't agree that we lose momentum by delaying things like this. The people that attended the event can have discussions, and it's like, if this was a strong belief, I think there would be a stronger push by everyone to live stream these events. And, you know, I'm happy to use that model, but there's a lot of speakers that aren't interested in having the events live.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. We are pushing for live streaming these events, but there are some people that won't let us. Yeah, well, there's different opinions about live streaming the events, and you know, some of them it won't be financially viable to do it, but some of the very popular events, it's like... No, I think it would be financially viable because people would be willing to pay for watching it live.
Sure. Right. The only difference is the live stream is going to be like buying a UFC ticket to a live stream. Like, it's not going to be cheap because we need to justify why one should buy a ticket to the event if they're local, as opposed to just, you know, or as opposed to sitting at home and buying a $5 ticket to
so
see the
we
event.
would make the ticket cheaper than the live stream, watching a live stream, so that if somebody is in the city, they were like, why would I pay for the live stream? I will just go there.
Yeah, exactly. It's cheaper. And that's why this happens with the boxing matches and UFC. And the thing is, and if people are saying, what, more expensive than that, the idea is for, you know, if you're at university, for 6 or 10 of you guys to get together and, you know, get an HDMI cable, hook up to a big TV somewhere, and you all chip in, 10 of you chip in $10, and then you have access to the live stream.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, but the whole point is that we need to figure out how to make this work if we want to keep having these events.
This idea of you know, this very loud... I think and it is a minority based on all of our stats, but there's this very loud minority that wants these events released instantly for free. Yeah, this will never happen.
And you get one event and then we'll go bankrupt, and that's about it.
Well, yeah, it's like no one. If people knew we released our events for free, it just no one's going to come to an event and buy a ticket. Now, in saying that, there are different models I've been thinking about and looking at, but it's going to take this massive global buy-in, and I'm not quite sure we are there yet. But
yeah, we'll see.
Back to the program.
Yeah, back to the program.
All right, so...
And that point he made...
What?
That point he made about, you know, the safety blanket point about not recording... It got a rousing applause.
Well, I think people misunderstood him the way I misunderstood him. I thought he was just saying, like, don't record because it's stealing and stuff. I didn't realize that he's saying don't record because we want to take risks.
Right.
So
listen more carefully, Simon.
I think with that, we will just put Sam and Jordan to it and see if we can head towards some of the discussions that have proved difficult in the past. Sam, Jordan?
Yeah, thank you. I think I'll just start by saying that...
well, there's that ring of that mic.
We first had the idea to do this now some months ago.
Yeah, that was
a little reverb here.
That was so annoying. And there was nothing we could do. Like, we were like running around trying to the venue. The sound guy...
It was a shit show.
We did those somewhat ill-fated
I felt
podcasts.
so bad for these guys on stage,
And
but they sorted it out like
joked
10
that,
minutes
we would
in.
probably need a safe word for this event. So
What do you say? Oh,
a
yeah.
safe word, as will come as no surprise, is
Yeah,
lobster.
safe word.
So you'll know things are dire when one of us says that. But I just want to express my motive for helping to stage these events, and because I reached out to Jordan, and it really was born of seeing him in conversation with people other than myself. I saw him do a podcast with Joe Rogan. I saw him speak to Dave Rubin. I saw him speak with Brett on Rogan's podcast. And I had so much admiration for him in those conversations. So 90% of what he said in those conversations struck me as really wise and useful and well-intentioned. And 10% didn't. But I noticed that it's clear to me that seeing these successful conversations with other people who I respect, I began to wonder that I might be the problem. And I think I am the problem.
No. I disagree.
Well, before you applaud, maybe I didn't mean that quite the way you took it. I think it's a good sort of problem for Jordan to have, because it's what happens on those 10% moments and what doesn't happen that I think made our conversation so hard, and I think there is stuff to clarify between us. So I look forward to doing that, and thank you, Jordan, for agreeing to do this. It's an honor to share the stage with you. And
what do you think you meant by I am the problem? I don't understand what he was trying to say.
I have no idea what he meant.
I don't know.
One thing I will say so it was interesting. Before Jordan's popularity really blew up,
right?
Sam and I had talked about Jordan at dinner one time, and we had both seen something on him, and it escapes me what it was, but we had talked about him, and then we hadn't talked about anything to do with Jordan for a while, and but then Sam called me at one point, and I had already been thinking about the Jordan Peterson and Matt Dillahunty event.
Yeah.
And Sam had said Jordan's blowing up, and this was around that time, around the Kathy Newman interview time. And I started taking a look at things and what was going on, and yeah, sure enough, Jordan's popularity was skyrocketing, and
it was skyrocketing before then, but then that that just put it on steroids.
Oh yeah, and it was much like when Sam's interview with Ben Affleck, or with on the Bill Maher show,
right?
When Ben Affleck went after him,
right?
And but it kind of had that effect. But we were, Sam basically said, I think we could have a really interesting discussion, and we had originally talked about. After I had analyzed all the data of what Sam was talking about, I was sure that we could do this in a massive arena in Vancouver. And then we kept talking about it, and then the Orpheum was available, and I knew that the Orpheum was available for 2 days in a row. So to mitigate the risk on this, I booked the Orpheum. And Jordan was game. Jordan was so pumped about it. He hadn't been signed to his new agency yet that now manages him. So it was kind of him and some members of his family, and kind of a speaking bureau that was managing his speaking engagements.
Right.
And then we were all excited and put the event on sale, and boom, it was viral. The ticket selling for the event. So luckily we had the
second day.
We had the second day ready to go, and we had our finger on the trigger. And in between the first day and the second day, Jordan had been signed by his new agency, and so the deal making for the second event was a lot different than the first event. Yeah, just money wise and bureaucracy wise, it was
Right.
Yeah, but everyone was game. The main thing was that Sam and Jordan were like, hell yeah, two dates.
Yeah.
They were like pumped about it. So two
Yeah, and
dates in a
both
row,
of them
same
sold
city.
out in the same city, same speakers.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sam and my initial inclination on how big it could be, we could have been more brave, or I could have been more brave and went with the big arena for Vancouver,
Right.
for sure. Because people, even after the two events were sold out, people were still trying to get tickets.
Right.
So yeah, I thought I would just throw that in and give people some insight as to how that goes down.
Right. That's good. You know, we should have a live chat next time here so that we could have.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah. Let's go to.
There's almost an obscene underestimation of the role he should be playing on any stage, because as you know, he's been on my podcast, and
I was so mad. Just so everyone knows, just a little backstage. I was using some heavy language, and you know, it's part of showbiz. This stuff happens, and because of what was at stake, and I knew, like, it's so hard to edit. Like, even this is how the video is after going through an editing suite, and it's like, it's so hard to get that feedback out of the edit, and I just knew it was going to fuck with the video. And yeah, I was angry backstage, and luckily the engineer who runs the venue, who's the actual engineer for the venue, showed up, and he really helped to get things.
He should have been there, just been there.
Yeah, it's part of the. I mean, it's part. And this was a speaking event. It's like, the sound is like not hard. Like speaking event sound is like, that's where you start off, and then you move into music.
Right.
And so it was very frustrating, but eventually gets fixed.
Okay.
So
I'll try to.
I look forward to doing that, and thank you, Jordan, for agreeing to do this. It's an honor to share the stage with you, and needless to say, having Brett as a moderator is almost an obscene underestimation of the role he should be playing on any stage, because as you know, he's been on my podcast, and that was one of the best conversations I've ever had. So thank you for doing this, Brett.
Thanks, Sam.
He has his laptop there.
All right.
So what Jordan, I'm going to give the people a little bit of information. What Jordan's doing here is he's still hearing the ringing in the monitors. And the editing suite made a cut here because Jordan like actually got up out of his chair and walked the stage a bit and said, I'm still hearing it over here, and I can hear the ringing over here. But this got cut out of the video. But I don't know, at some point we got to dig that raw file up and post that clip, because it's like, Wait, no,
he did that before the event started.
No, before the event, like during sound check, everyone was like, okay, this is shit. Yeah. And then everyone was like, just make it happen, figure it out. But also during the event,
right,
Jordan stood up and walked the stage and did like a bit of a mic thing and checking. You haven't seen this, have you?
Wait, I was watching this entire thing.
You don't remember, do you?
Wait, I watched this entire clip. The clip that I watched was not the raw one?
You probably saw the edited clip.
What was I doing? Was I running around behind the scenes? I don't know.
Probably.
Okay.
I was probably breathing down your neck.
All right.
I was probably blaming you for the sound problems.
Yeah. No.
Fuck, Armin. What the fuck? I don't know.
All right. Okay.
Right. But you'll see where the cut is. It's coming up in like.
So I'm going to jump right into it, I think. Here, so look, this is
they put a fade in there.
Right.
And then
I think the part that they cut out was just him sitting back and saying the audio quality is still not good.
Yeah.
But he didn't get off his seat.
No, I think
I remember
he does get up.
I remember the part that got cut out. I don't think he get off his seat. I think the part that he was walking around was before the event.
Maybe I dreamt that.
Yeah, you're so upset about this that you
my mind has created this like mental image so that it helps me not to have a stroke.
All right.
I put up a poll a couple of days ago to find out what people, broadly speaking, might want us to discuss, and I've been taking a look at that, and I took a lot of notes, which is why I have my computer here, by the way, and my phone. It's not to check my email while the debate's going on, the discussion. I thought what I might do is just lay out some places that I think Sam and I agree. And because there's lots of places we agree. And then I want to figure out...
One clap.
Yeah,
Did you
see,
hear that?
this is that one clap is that person that is hoping that everybody could just get along, right? Which is such a...
In a war of ideas, we don't need that.
No, we don't need that.
We want to weed out...
Somebody would things we agree. Yay, we agree. Like, what's the point? Anyways.
Well, yeah, it's like there's this feeling in a regular war.
Right.
So when you're talking about war, like countries at war, you want to see by your differences so that you can combine troops to go in and start killing people. Right. But it's like not in this circumstance.
Right. The thing is that there are some people that admire Sam, some people admire Jordan, and some people that admire both. And among people that admire both of them, they are hoping that they could get along, because they think that if they don't get along, then it's kind of like your parents fighting, right? It's awkward. It's not nice.
That's stupid.
Yeah, I know.
It's like what happens if they don't get along? It's like nothing happens. It's like what happens when you become offended? Nothing.
Right. No, in fact, it's more interesting.
Yeah.
You learn from disagreements more than you learn from agreements.
Yeah.
Where we disagree, which I've been trying to sort out, and then I want to see if we can hash it out a little bit and move forward on that a bit. So I'm going to lay out. See, one of the things that Carl Rogers
said, someone else just tried to clap.
Psychologist, was that
maybe I was hearing things.
A good way to have a discussion with someone is to tell them what you think they think until they think that what you said reflects what they said.
This is good. Steel manning.
But this is a really useful thing to know if you're ever having a discussion with an intimate
Steel
partner,
manning
for
is a
example.
really good technique for people just, I'll say amateurs, but you're not amateurs, just people having discussions.
Yes.
Put yourself, give the person, try to tell them what they believe and what they think.
Right.
And the thing is that if they say, no, you're misunderstanding what I believe. Right. Don't try to correct them on what they believe.
Yeah.
Let them tell you.
Yeah. Actually, this works very well in relationship as well. Like whenever my wife gets angry with me, I'm like, okay, let me tell you, I think this is why you're angry, right? And I'll like go really hard on myself. Like, this is why you're angry.
I wouldn't dare say that.
No? What is that? Okay.
You're kicked right in the pills.
No. This is really good. You basically try to like say why I deserve to be angry of like more than she can, and she was like, yes, that's exactly why I'm angry with you, right? And then you're like, because you explained it very well, then it actually solves half of the problem right there. I don't know.
Yeah. Or they might say, oh, so you think you know everything.
All right.
You have to put their argument back to them in terms they agree with. It's very difficult. So I'm going to try to do that. And so the first thing is, I think that partly what's driving you, if this is accurate, is that you want to ground a structure of ethics in something solid. And there's two things you want to avoid, two catastrophes, let's say. One is the catastrophe that you identified with religious fundamentalism, and the other is the catastrophe that's associated with moral relativism. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, good. Okay, well, no.
One thing I would say, like Jordan does a really good job steel manning Sam at the beginning.
When it comes to analysis, Jordan is supreme. Like from his clinical psychology background.
Right.
Like
I keep hearing that, but I don't know how to judge that because I'm not a psychologist. Right? Like people keep telling me, like, I say I have a problem with Jordan's like stance on religion, and a lot of people are like, yes, but he's a genius when it comes to psychology. I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, how would I know?
You haven't read his papers. And,
no, even if I read his paper, how could I judge? Well, I don't have.
You can compare what's in his writings and if you read what the other scientists have to say about his writings.
No, yeah, I could just say basically maybe if somebody says
the same things you do with evolution.
Yeah, the thing with again, I can't judge that. I just go by what the consensus is.
Sure,
because I don't have the labs and the.
So if Jordan's outside the clinical psychology consensus,
Right. So
then,
again, I haven't checked what the consensus is and if it agrees with what he's saying, but I would have. But I could. I'm just saying, a lot of people just judge by listening to him and thinking that it sounds smart, so it must be smart. I'm not saying it's not smart. Maybe like if I check, like, oh, like, wow, he's been used as a source in so many research. Like if I looked in the numbers and see how many people like admire him within the field, maybe like, okay, yeah, that's. But I think most people don't do that. Most people just go, but like he sounds smart. So he must be smart.
Yeah. Well, my statement was, when it comes to analytics, analyzing a situation, analyzing a conversation,
right,
he seems to be quite talented at that, because even when he's in an interview with someone, he'll steelman them,
right,
and talk about what they're getting at and what he believes their position to be, and usually he's correct from what I've seen.
Right. Yeah. But he does a really good job at like steel manning Sam here, I think.
Yeah. So he did his homework.
Okay, so it's crucially important that we get this right now. So, and that's something that I think we really agree on, because I've conceptualized that slightly different than you, and that might be relevant, but I think of that as a pathology of order and a pathology of chaos.
See, this is already a problem, okay? Just something as so simple as, like, hey, we have a problem with religious fundamentalism and moral relativism, that all of a sudden turned into pathology of order and pathology of chaos. It's already
the opposite. Chaos? What's chaos?
No, the thing is that it's already taking simple terms and turning it into something unnecessarily complicated, I think.
So the terminology is slightly different, but I think we're working on the same axis. So that's the first thing. And then, in order to do that, it seems to me, that's your first priority. And then maybe your second priority is something like, you see undue suffering in the world, plenty of it, and you would think that things would be better if that wasn't the case, and that this morality, whatever it's going to be, is at least going to ground itself in part on the presupposition that the less undue suffering in the world, the better. Is that also reasonable?
Yeah, I would just add to that the positive side of the continuum as well. So as you know, the phrase I use, or the word I use for this is well-being.
Yep.
And I know from having, I don't think we spoke about this on my podcast, but from having seen you in other interviews, I think you think that phrase doesn't capture everything one could reasonably want. But I think it does. I mean, it's an elastic suitcase term for a reason, and it's actually, in reading your book, I realize there's a point of contact here, because you use the word being, capital B, being, as though it were imbued with significant gravitas, and so for me, and I agree with you, that's an appropriate use of being, and for me, well-being is simply just the positive side of being. There's the negative side, the suffering we want to mitigate, but I think however good consciousness can be in this universe, that the well-being for me subsumes all of those possibilities.
Okay. Well, so I focused on the suffering element, I think, as I've done in my own work, because I actually think it's easier to zero in on, in some sense. Like, I think it's easier for people, and I think you lay out the argument in the moral landscape kind of like this.
Yeah.
I think
so. They both agree on this. So.
Yeah. No. This is off to a great start.
Yeah, because something is people disagree on what the positive side of well-being is, like how we define the positive, but the disagreement on what the negative looks like is much less than. That's why it's easier to define the positive as just moving away from first defining the negative and then defining the positive as just moving away from that, because it's easier to agree on that, and that moving away could be in many different directions, or as Sam puts it in his book, there could be like different hills.
I think the main thing is the difference in all of our pleasure drives when it comes to well-being.
Yeah,
it gets very weird, because it's like, well, is putting a slit on my stomach better for my well-being? Well, it helped me orgasm, because I happen to
okay,
that happens to be a pleasurable thing, right?
Right.
It's like, how do you apply the well-being argument to?
Well, you don't have to. I mean, you don't have to talk about the exact thing. I mean,
yeah, and that's why. But people in Sam's position don't say it. So it's the well-being. I guess the label. It's not something you can apply to every single thing. It doesn't work that way. But there are some things, like he talks about, if you drank this glass of acid or you drank this glass of water, one of them is better for your well-being.
I think people on like Jordan's side, they see more. There's something about words that makes them more special. Like people that support Jordan, they think there's something spiritual, something within the essence of the word that you can't change, or like there's something magical about them, right? Like how could you say something is good? Like we have, but
well, I think an example of this is you hear Jordan say sometimes, well, it depends on what you mean, or it depends on what is, or it depends on what you mean by belief, or it depends on what you mean by. Most of the time when we're using language in its most honest form, I feel like we don't have to constantly be checking in on that.
Right. I mean, yeah, exactly. I think people that see more along the lines of what Sam sees things is that words, like, they're just labels. You could just define them. Like, oh, how could you say something is good? Well, because I just defined it that way, right? It's just a placeholder for whatever we want it to be. Anyways, let's play.
What we do want is unimportant, but it seems to me to be harder to get a grip on. We don't want Auschwitz. We don't want the Gulag Archipelago. So, and there are...
And I would add, to just closing the door to moral relativism here, those who do want Auschwitz are wrong to want Auschwitz. I mean, it's obviously right. Auschwitz only happened because some people did want Auschwitz, not the victim side, but the perpetrator side. And so, crucially for me is the claim that I'm a realist. I'm a moral realist, and what realism means is that there are right and wrong answers to questions of this kind, and you cannot know what you're missing. In fact, we almost certainly don't know what we're missing on questions of human value, and our job is to discover just how good life can be and just what variables are making it needlessly horrible, and to mitigate all of that and live in a better world.
So just to put this in context, a lot of people disagree with Sam and Jordan in this, because a lot of people think that this is all just subjective. It's all like moral relativist, like yes, everything could change. And this is not going to be discussed here, because both Sam and Jordan believe that morality does have a solid ground. It's just that what that solid ground is what they disagree on.
Right.
Right.
Okay, well, so that's a lot of points of agreement. So I also believe that there is a catastrophe of arbitrary moral injunction, and that there's a catastrophe of moral relativism, and that has to be dealt with, and that there are genuine differences between the proper way of behaving morally and the improper way of behaving morally. And I think that they are grounded in human universals, even though there's a wide amount of variation. So that's a lot of points of agreement, right? So we know that there's two things we want to avoid, conceptually speaking, which is the moral relativism and this kind of moral...
So like, there's lots of agreement, and somebody was like...
Isn't that it's that same fucking person.
Yeah.
Every time this is going to become a drinking game for these videos. Every time someone says agreement and then the clap happens, you have to drink as many times as the clap happens for. If it's 3 claps, it's 3 drinks.
Absolutism that's grounded in an arbitrary statement of facts that you identify with religious fundamentalism. I would identify that with fundamentalism more generally, not with religious fundamentalism per se, because I see it also happening in secular states, let's say, like Nazi Germany or so it doesn't seem to be religious fundamentalism per se that's crucial to your argument.
This is now sneaking in. This is the part where we want to excuse religion for its... Because if you could talk about secular fundamentalism, like secular regimes that have committed crimes, that's an excuse to say, like, so it's not the religion part of like theocracies. There's something else, right? But this is kind of like me shooting you in the leg and then stabbing you in the stomach, and they would be like, well, you're injured, and I also stabbed this person, and he's also injured. So the bullets in your leg didn't really injure you, because look, this person that only got the knife is also injured. Do you know what I mean? Like, religion does cause harm. Just because you can find examples of harm without religion, that doesn't mean religion is not causing harm.
Yeah, and also you have to look at the role that these ideologies play. It's like secularism doesn't lead to throwing homosexuals off a building.
Right. I mean...
but Islam does.
Yeah, I mean, religion is not the only bad idea out there.
No.
Right,
no one's claiming that.
No one's claiming that.
But secularism and atheism, there's nothing attached to those labels,
right,
that gives you reasonable justification for anything.
Right.
It's a placeholder for a position. Well, at least atheism is.
Yeah, I mean, the atheism is lack of belief in God. So because these people were atheists and did horrible things, does that mean that religion doesn't cause harm? That's kind of saying, like, look, you know what else did these people, Stalin and Mao, had in common? They also didn't believe in leprechauns, right? So given that they committed these crimes and they didn't believe in leprechauns, maybe it was their lack of belief in leprechauns that made them cause all this crimes.
When you just said lack of belief in leprechauns, like half of your face turned green, and I think it's the new lighting in the new studio. But maybe there's some magic of this new spaceship. But okay, I got to stop looking at you. It's freaking me out.
Are you high right now?
I don't know. Maybe.
No, it's not. So that just to close the loop on that, the only reason why I would focus on religion in particular there is that religion is the only language game wherein fundamentalism and dogmatism, dogmatism is not a pejorative concept. Dogma is a good word, specifically within Catholicism, and the notion that you must believe things on faith, that is in the absence of compelling evidence that would otherwise cause a rational person to believe it, that in a religious context is considered a feature, not a bug. Elsewhere we recognize it to be a bug, and that's why the unique...
Well, to be fair, like under communist regimes, that was also a feature. Like if you questioned Chairman, I mean, and that's something they have a similarity with religion, is that it was dogma, and the dogmatic part was if they considered a feature. I think what makes religions more...
But the thing about communism, it's like there's not a communist manual that says,
I mean,
can't communism be adapted based on the regime? It's not like there's a holy book of communism.
Well, I mean, there is, right?
Such as?
Like Marx's writings and everything like that.
Yeah, but I mean, are you telling me that Marx, his writing was followed as stringently as you follow like a holy scripture?
No, but I would say that Islamic and regimes also don't follow the Quran. That sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, and when the closer they do, the worse it gets. But the thing is, like, the people that died under Mao, right? A lot of people like look at Mao and be like, oh, he killed so many people, but violently, right? But he killed more people because of his economic policies. Like, most people don't count that. Most people don't. If you add up the number of people that died from starvation under his regime, that number goes even way higher.
Oh yeah.
Right. So the whole the communism itself, the policy killed more people than him actually violently killing people.
Right.
So, I mean, it's
and that's what I'm talking about. Like, in a communist regime, you don't necessarily have to have millions of people starving.
Yes, you do. I think so. If you take communism to this very
to that extreme.
No, if you follow Marx's.
But it doesn't say that. Does it say anywhere that you starve people?
No.
But if you follow about when you read the Bible, it gives you some explicit directions on what you can do with slaves.
Here's what they have. Both are similar, right? They have some very dangerous idea, but they're wrapped in this beautiful package of, sweet, fuzzy, rainbows and butterflies kind of sugarcoating. And with communism, is like, everyone's going to be equal. We're all going to be like the same. With Christianity, is like, love your neighbor, love everything, right? Like, we're all God, if you just believe in Jesus, you're going to go to paradise. But there's a whole bunch of like dangerous, poisonous
There's a lot of buts.
shit there, but it's just covered in this. But Islam is like, be kind to orphans. And that sugarcoating actually makes this whole thing more dangerous because it makes the whole poison survive longer. Right? Yeah. But I think with religion, the reason why it's more dangerous is because the con is perfect, because it has moved, like with communism and all these other secular dangerous dogma, the promises are worldly. So at some point you're going to feel like, okay, this is not working, right? But with religion, especially with Christianity and Islam, the rewards have moved past death.
Yeah.
So you're never going to find out that you're going to be conned. Yeah. That's why they are stronger memes.
And the dead can't tell you if what was being told to them was wrong.
Right, yeah. And that's what the supernatural element of religion makes it a much more dangerous meme. Anyways.
Focus on religion.
All right. So is it reasonable to assume that we've already established, at least in principle, that there's an association between the totalitarian regimes, let's say,
and dogmatism, yeah,
and the dogmatism that characterizes religious belief.
Yeah.
What do you think, although at least in principle, the secularist totalitarian states and the religious fundamentalist totalitarian states do differ in one important regard, which is that the religious types ground their axioms in God and the secular totalitarian types don't. And so there's got to be something about totalitarianism per se that's independent of, that's associated with religious belief in the manner that you just described, but that's not particularly associated with the belief in God. There's something that makes them, that's a commonality between them. And so do you have any sense?
See, this is very simple thinking, I think. Am I misreading this? It's like, hey, this is harmful, that is harmful, so there must be something independent of God that makes them both harmful. No, harms could have different sources. Yeah. Like, isn't that like, no.
Yeah.
What?
Of what that might be?
Well, I think one has to acknowledge that there's something uniquely pernicious, at least potentially, about religious beliefs, because they have the otherworldly variable, the supernatural variable, you're going to get everything you want after you die, so this life doesn't matter issue.
This is very powerful if you're trying to mobilize an army of people who aren't living very good freaking lives. And you make these promises, and if you die in martyrdom or you die out in the field, it's not over for you because you're on the right side.
Yeah. I can tell you how powerful these beliefs are. I almost committed suicide because of it.
Well, you tried.
Yeah, I tried.
Not to make light of it, but...
No, I am making light of it. This is stupid.
Oh, Armin.
Yeah. As for a kind of misbehavior that is especially...
Okay. So it seems that the claim would be that if you put forward axiomatically your claim that God exists, then you can use that claim to justify whatever arbitrary atrocities your system might throw off.
Jordan's got his hand going big time.
What did he just say? I think he missed.
Try that. Take that back.
Yeah. He uses...
Axiomatically your claim that God exists, then you can use that claim to justify whatever arbitrary atrocities your system might throw off.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I guess the only point I was making there is that not all dogmas are created equal. I mean, some dogmas are on their face more dangerous and more divisive.
But what I'm curious about specifically is, because it seems to me that the dogmas of the USSR and the dogmas of Nazi Germany were as pernicious as any religious dogmas. No. And they may also share important features with
No, and here's a proof that that's not the case. How long did Nazi Germany last? Less than one generation. How long did the USSR last?
Yeah.
Right? How long did Islam last? How long did Christianity last? These are more powerful memes.
Yeah, and Sam what he said before is the supernatural aspect of these.
Yeah.
Is a very strong... It's hard to fight against if you're not... If you are indoctrinated into it.
Right.
And it's already there. It's like, well, nothing's more supreme.
Right.
I already have the most supreme idea in my mind.
See, here's the thing with communism and Nazism. They're so destructive that they're self-destructive. You know what I mean? Like they destroy everything around them, including themselves. Right? Islam and Christianity have figured out how to use people and keep growing and feed the meme in expense of the individual. Right? The memes of Nazism and communism destroys the individual and eventually destroys the meme as well. Right?
Religious dogmas, but it isn't clear to me from your perspective what those commonalities would be.
Well, so, I mean, in some ways you're recapitulating an argument I've made, and this is an argument that I would make against you were you to claim, as you have elsewhere, that atheism is responsible for the greatest atrocities of the 20th century. The idea that Stalinism and Nazism and fascism were expressions of atheism simply doesn't make any sense. I mean, in the case of fascism and Nazism, it doesn't make any sense because the fascists and the Nazis, by and large, were not even atheists. I mean, Hitler wasn't an atheist, and he was talking about executing a divine plan, and he got lots of support from the churches, and the Vatican did nothing to stop him, and fascism
is interesting. I just watched I was at the red carpet for Dinesh D'Souza's new documentary, and he talks a lot about about Hitler, and he makes the argument that Hitler was tied into the Catholic community in order to gain that support, and making the claim that he wasn't, in fact, although he pronounced at times he was a believer in God.
Right.
So, you know, whether I don't know the history good enough.
But here's the thing. But again, if people say, let's say these people, forget Hitler. Stalin was an atheist. Mao was an atheist. But they didn't believe in God. But they also didn't believe in unicorns. Yeah. They also didn't believe in the flying spaghetti monster.
It wasn't their lack of belief in unicorns that made them go off the rails.
If you think it was, if you're saying it was their lack of belief in God, why didn't you think it was not their lack of belief in Krishna?
Yeah, and it's a non-starter argument, because then you turn that around to say, well, okay, then why was this priest raping little boys?
Yeah,
he shouldn't have been. He wasn't an atheist.
Yeah, I just never understand that argument. It's
and then we go to it's the no true Christian fallacy after that. Yeah.
You know,
but we're not saying atheism will. Like, we're not making the claim that atheism is going to make you a better person. Right?
No, atheism, this is something that people really need to get clear. Atheism is nothing. Yeah. Atheism is just a placeholder term that we've put for a non-position.
Right.
It's like, if someone, if you're a Christian and someone says, the flying spaghetti monster exists, and you say, I don't believe you. That is an atheistic position that you're in.
Right.
So
I don't know.
Atheism leads to nothing. It's just a position. It's a lack of belief position. Someone claims that something exists. You don't have to prove anything. Right. You can just say, I don't believe you.
Yeah. I don't understand why people think that's
coexisted quite happily with Catholicism in Croatia and Portugal and Spain and Italy. So, but even in the case of Stalin, what was so wrong with that situation were all of the ways in which it so resembled a religion. You had a personality cult, you had dogmatism that held sway to a point where apostasy and blasphemy were killing offenses. You know, the people who didn't toe the line were eradicated, and so to take a more modern example, North Korea is a religious cult. It just doesn't happen to be a one that is focused on the next life or supernatural claims.
Well, to be fair, I would say it's not a religion if it doesn't have a supernatural. North Korea probably is a religion because they do have some supernatural beliefs. It's like they still worship the fucking dead leaders and stuff.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is that I think for something to be a religion, you need to have rituals and a supernatural element to it. If it doesn't have that, it's just dogma, not religion, a different kind of dogma. But the thing is, I agree that whatever, all the problems with, the government under Stalin are things that are similar to religion, and the parts of it that is not similar to religion is what made it a weaker dogma. So we benefited from it not being completely like a religion. You know what I mean? Because it dies with its leaders.
Right.
Or it dies with that government.
All right. Well, let's cut it there for today. This has been our first episode in the studio. Hope you guys enjoyed. We will continue this, long form review of this first event.
We're gonna see if we could do this live, and then maybe have like a live chat stream, and then see what other people review it with our followers and see what they think as well, right?
Yeah. I think we should do some live streaming for sure.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.